Just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of The Yarn. And look, it's a big week. It's a big week. The big fella, Tyson the Terminator. It's his first game of the year this weekend.
Yeah,
how you feeling, mate?
Saturday Arvo. Yeah, pretty good. We had training last night, and yeah, I'm pretty excited. I didn't think I would be.
You revved up? Train the house down or what?
Oh yeah, mate. Look, this is gonna be my retirement tour. So this is the last year for me.
Mate, you're 23 years old.
But hey, you can't do everything, right? So yeah, last year for me. But I'm pretty excited. I didn't think I'd be this excited, but watching the footy over the weekend and then knowing that this is coming on Saturday, I'm all of a sudden pretty
Tyson
deep.
said before the camera started rolling? He said my tag when I play footy is I break stories and I break ribs. That's what he said. That's what he said before the camera started rolling. That is crazy. I can't believe Tyson the Terminator at Tyson the Terminator 69. Give him a follow. The great Blake Austin's joined us, mate. How you going, brother?
Brilliant, man. Yeah, great to be here,
mate.
The pinnacle of
you're a media man now.
Somewhat, yeah. Getting a little introduction. Obviously, doing a little bit with SEN. Thankful for Sporting News. Did a little bit with them last year. Doing a bit more this year. Still working a 9 to 5, so on the ground, enjoying that. I'm working in the female space, female rugby league space at the Central Coast Sports College, and just sort of, I brag around the house. I'm working 4 jobs to keep the family afloat. So any housework that gets thrown my way, I throw that reminder in. But really enjoyed it. I'm an agent as well. I'm an accredited agent. Decided to go out on my own and working with some great young athletes and great families. So. Yeah, life's pretty good, man. It's all revolves around footy, probably the way I always envisaged my sort of post-playing career. But yeah, going really well.
Mate, player agents. What is the one misconception do you think about player agents?
That we're all the same. People probably don't realise. I think there's over 100 accredited agents. I don't know how.
I think it's 130.
Yeah,
wow.
I don't know how. Like everyone should have the opportunity to be involved, but you also probably shouldn't have that many. What I've found is having that many, so if you're, no offense, but if you're at the lower end of that list, they go out and sign players that probably shouldn't have agents at the moment. So they're getting agents, but they're just signing kids to make it feel like it's worthwhile being an agent.
Yeah.
And it gives, like if a kid's 15 or 16 that gets an agent that shouldn't has an agent, there's a good chance that agent's not going to be able to do anything for them.
Yeah.
And then the perception is agents are terrible and they don't do anything for us anyway. So I don't know how you solve it. I think Paul Massey's doing as good a job as he can. I think it's a space that will forever be evolving. I know that there's always talks going on about how do we improve it. But yeah, ever since Jerry Maguire, man, my idea of success was always you play footy or you wear a suit. And becoming a player agent, I always thought was a way to sort of do both. So.
Do you wear a suit?
No, I don't wear a suit. I try to pride myself on being one of the coolest looking agents.
Okay.
I hate branding. I can't do the wanky branding.
Okay.
So if you see me at a footy game, and if you ever see me with any branding on, it means I've folded, and you need to come and tell me I'm a weak person.
So we're talking like Louis Vuitton?
No. We're talking plain shirts, Uniqlo, like just vibey sort of kit. But like I know people that have gone with the bigger companies, and they're getting stick if they're not carrying a branded umbrella and a branded polo and a branded clipboard. So like that's not what an agent is. You shouldn't be at a kid's game of footy sort of.
So what player agents get brands to brands go to them and say I need you to
so player agents that end up working for the bigger companies. The bigger companies put
parameters
you mean
branded
on
like that.
So they have to go to the game in all their, and you're in trouble. I think some of them even have quotas. You've got to sign a certain amount. So they're obviously paying them a bit of a salary. So they put pretty strong rules in place to make sure they're getting a return on investment.
So it might be a business called Aussie Footy Management, and they tell their people that work for them, you have to wear
Aussie umbrella, Aussie polo. You have to have it. It has to be in front of everyone's. And look, that's a great business model, but it's not the route I want to take. I was really fortunate that Tyron Smith was my agent for my whole NRL career, and I always thought he set a really good example of what an agent should be. He was someone that kept his clientele at a really manageable level. So I feel like it'd be silly not to take what he sort of showed me and put my own little spin on it as well. So really enjoying it.
Yep. Mate, all right, well, the yarn, it's all proudly brought to you by Code Sports. Go to codesports.com.au/bloke. Get your discount. Just get it done. And also powered by Lontel. Go to lontel.net.au/bloke. It's free. Free 7-day trial. No contract, no credit card needed. And if you use code BLOKE, you also get $25 credit. They're also running a 6-month reduced pricing for all speeds for everyone. That is going to end soon. And also the $1,000 to one lucky person that signs up. That is also ending soon. But some big news, guys, on the yarn. Big news. What is going on at the Doggies? Now, I'd love to... I'll throw this to you, mate, because just to set the stage. So, Serraldo comes out after the game. He says, the reason I had Sullivan put on the field is because he's a big communicator. Crichton's our biggest communicator. And so I thought, yeah, that makes sense. But then Gus Gould has now come out and contradicted that and basically said that Serraldo was looking to protect the doctor. What is doing at the Doggies?
Yeah, look, it's Gus Gould, right? Like you can kind of put any spin you want on it, but Gus has been doing things like this for years where he comes out and has his opinion on things, and it could be the same as the coach, or it could be completely different. In this case, it's completely different. Look, I think Cameron Serraldo is a pretty honest guy. Like I've never had an experience with him where he's come out and lied about something. But yeah, it was very interesting on 100% Footy the other night that Gould comes out saying that he's had this almost an excuse or this reasoning to try and protect the doctor, because I don't think anyone would be coming at the doctor, if for some reason he went, yeah, look, we just didn't know.
How could the doctor possibly know for sure? Like, there's no reasonable person would expect that.
And I mean, as well, like Stephen Crichton walked up the sheds in that game with like a man-made sling out of his jersey. Like he couldn't lift his arm. They had to do tests. Like they couldn't figure that out on the run. I think the Bulldogs made their decision. And instead of sticking to what they've done, they're trying to come up with reasons around why they've done it.
Gus Gould even said, Serraldo wouldn't want me to say this.
Yeah, it's
like, well, don't say it then.
It's very strange, I think. Like, I mean, when you try to, especially when Gus is involved, when you try to put reasoning and justification around things, you really struggle.
Well, he is like, and this isn't, I'm not taking the piss. He genuinely is working on a level above most of us.
Yeah.
Like, he is the Gould father. So it's like, are we getting psyoped right now? I don't know what's happening anymore in regards to what's true and what's not true at the Doggies. That's
the thing. It's always been that way with him, right? And yeah, like, I mean, you can probably take. I think like you said, I think Cameron Serraldo's reasoning to why they put Sean O'Sullivan on makes more sense. Like,
do you reckon it was pretty clear that Critter's day was done? But he was in a lot of pain on the field.
See, that's why honestly, I believe rather that Sean O'Sullivan because he's a coach in his own time as well. Like, he's known throughout rugby league.
I also don't know where that narrative came from.
As in,
I feel like over the off-season there was a real push to convince everyone that Sean's this greatest mind the game's ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, there's no evidence yet that Sean can get to Toby Sexton's level. Would you agree with that?
I would. I think initially he was signed as a backup. It's more in regards to, does Sean O'Sullivan talk a lot? He definitely does. Like, I've spoken to players that play with him and that. Like, he is a true motor mouth. And so if you take Serraldo at his word that, Critter's a big talker, I think it's also pretty evident that Galvin and Burton aren't that big of talkers. Connor Tracy doesn't strike me as one either. They talk enough to do what they need to do, even though we'll get into the half situation. I'm sure we've got strong opinions on that. I tended to be like, when Serraldo said he's a talker and we wanted someone out there that could, bark orders, I'm okay with that.
Do you know what my interpretation with going with O'Sullivan was? I reckon it was, and you got a football background, I reckon it was like a park the bus mentality. So they're up 18-12 the moment they need to make this decision. I reckon Cam goes, we need someone that's going to steer the ship, kick to corners and put Souths in really uncomfortable positions. That was how I interpreted it. Obviously, we've had two other reasons. I guess the communication kind of leans into that sort of argument. Yeah. So I can get behind that. My theory around it all, I don't care if Burton's a centre. And the other part to that is, if Burton's not upset every time he gets moved to centre, I don't think he's an elite number 6 in our game. Maybe he doesn't have the psyche to become an elite number 6, because the line you have to toe between arrogance and confidence as an NRL level half, I think he should be shattered. He's probably a great team person, and maybe he's a better team person than I ever was. But I reckon you have to be upset 2 weeks in a row getting moved in the crunch moments. And I don't want to keep pushing this narrative, because the Dogs will figure it out. And O'Sullivan's obviously coming from the bench this week. I'd imagine maybe playing Penrith this week is the only reason he didn't pull the trigger on O'Sullivan starting. Because if you're ever going to need a bit of continuity, it's against Penrith. But the other thing is, the O'Sullivan idea might be dead and buried this weekend if he threw him in against the Panthers, because the Dogs would go, well,
how you said that when Sean O'Sullivan was brought on, you could see why, like kind of steadying that game, sustaining that lead. Do you think though, like Sean O'Sullivan came on as a 5'8" rather than a halfback, right? He was playing that second receiver.
I'd
role.
say he clearly come on as the main general.
Well, Galvin
guy.
was still the first receiver. I think.
I think
Gavin's a very
into that,
confident guy,
yeah.
and Gavin wants the moments. Like that's what we've all come. Like that's what we all believe now about Gavin. Like he whether or not he's always capable, he always shows up for their moments, and I reckon that's the evidence that we all going by, that he's gonna be great, because any player like that can get there.
Yeah, I will say, he came on and then they made like a bazillion errors, and they didn't really have I don't think the Dogs actually gave themselves an opportunity to do exactly that, which was kick the corners and build pressure, whereas the Rabbitohs actually completed 20 from 20 sets. I think with the Galvin still being first receiver, I think that's just more a symptom of that's just all Galvin knows. Like he went on that field as the main man. He's going to come off that field as the main man unless he's being told before he runs on that field, you are not the main man. And so I think it's just Galvin being young, probably not being able to adjust. But also I don't think they actually had much of an opportunity to adjust because they were making so many errors. The Burton situation, the half situation, that's the first time it's made sense why they didn't put O'Sullivan in this week and they went with Sherry. Because if O'Sullivan is your secret long-term plan, even though we're all pretty aware, it seems like that's the way they're headed, or at least for the next year until Woods.
But is he a stopgap? He's a stopgap.
Yeah,
right?
for Woods to come through, I'd have to say, because I'm with you as well. O'Sullivan has shown no evidence that he's even as good as Sexton in the NRL at this stage. But that does make sense. If he's your season play, the last thing you want to do from a PR perspective is bring him against the Panthers and get fucking towed up.
Well, if he went 40 minutes last week where didn't really show, and it's unfair to judge him on last week because it's hard to do that, but if he went 40 minutes, didn't show what we all said he might be able to show, then you throw him in against the Panthers and he gets 80 minutes and he probably doesn't show what, because who could possibly show what they've got against the Panthers? I reckon that experiment would be over.
Yeah.
And then it's like, where do we go now? I reckon there's an element where, do you reckon there's an element, and it's like, I don't want to suggest that this is what happened, but there's an element where the coach goes, well, this is what they've asked for. Let's give it to them. We don't really, we have a choice now and it's kind of taken out of our hands.
As in the Sherry.
As throwing O'Sullivan out there?
Oh, O'Sullivan out there? Nah, see, because I reckon it is their long-term plan this year. I just, for the life of me...
Why not round one then?
I don't know.
We were all hearing during the off-season, like that narrative you're talking about, how great Sean O'Sullivan's mind is. That was being pushed from the Bulldogs.
Hard.
All off.
Really
I will say I'd heard this long before.
Yeah,
the Dogs.
but the word out of the Dogs to start the year was how good of a combination O'Sullivan and Galvin would make, with Burton eventually shifting to centre. I think.
Do we think Burton's an elite centre, or do we just want him out of the 6 jersey?
No, he's a Dalium centre.
Yeah, but at the Panthers.
Nah, even when he played Origin,
I think his ball carrying is one of the best.
Yeah,
in the
you even
comp,
look at I know stats aren't everything, but statistically, he's one of the best ball running sixes in the competition.
I think he's a great six.
With a
I'm
good
shattered
7.
for him.
Yeah. I think he's. You know what? He's actually a little bit similar to Galvin. They need a good 7 inside them to give him that extra space to be the tip of the spear rather than the actual handle. And I think with Galvin, he's having all these touches, but they're like one off the ruck. And so, whereas when he was coming through the ranks, those same touches he was having were a pass wider, which means more space, which means his running game can exploit those.
I just don't think they can work together. I think their style of play is so similar that they're struggling to work together. When we've seen Galvin at his best, he's had that boring half to give him that ball with that
Look
space.
how boring Luai was when he went into 7. He had no tries. Basically, Luai
he had nothing until he moved back to 6.
All Luai was doing was laying a platform for Galvin to do what he did. And it's ironic that they apparently weren't getting along or whatever when Luai was doing everything in his power to make Galvin look like an absolute superstar.
It's funny that we're talking about this because Josh Reynolds was a guy that was probably similar in their vein as a half. He was similar to me and better than me, but we were underskilled halves. But what we both had, I had it at Canberra and Josh had it at Bulldogs, is we had a really big pack that kept us on the front foot. I went to Canberra solely knowing that I couldn't play sequences and come up with and break down defences. But if you put me on the front foot, I knew how to grab the ball and run the footy.
Yep.
And I reckon that's how Burton and Galvin are trying to play. They just don't have the pack at the minute that's creating what they need to be creating. They've gone with a really basic 9, and I mean that in the utmost respect because I like what Hayward's doing.
And he's learning his trade. Like, he's essentially his first year as 9.
But I think if you're going to go for that style of 9, you have to have a really crafty fullback. But they've gone the same sort of fullback. So your 9 and your fullback aren't really offering much creatively.
Yep.
Sorry, we pat Connor on the back because he runs for 200 metres, and that's awesome. But that's not what them halves need. They need someone that gets excited for them and sees the shape before they do. And it sounds unfair to question Connor Tracy because he leaves everything out on the field and he's, you know, they've got a few other issues probably more pressing than him. But like we never really delve too much deeper to ask why the halves are struggling. We just go, well, he's not a halfback and he's not a 5'8", and put him at centre and bring us. But they're not really set up for them to really succeed either. They've gone with Semin at lock. They bring Man on. Last week they wasted 3 cards between those two smaller forwards, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of having smaller forwards, right? Because a smaller forward's a bit of a set and forget, which allows you to rotate some big athletic bodies around.
Unless they're using that for speed of ruck, and they're just trying to be quick through the ruck.
But they've got no one there creating the ruck speed.
Yeah, to be fair, they haven't had Leo Thompson all year, which was supposed to come in to solve some of that problem, some of that big body problem. Like
verdict's still out on him too. Like is he a year or two off becoming who we want him to become?
But I think style of player wise for the Bulldogs, he kind of fills a void that they were missing last year. I think Max King, Sam Hughes, Harry Hayes all play very similar styles of footy, where Leo Thompson, I think, is an outright enforcer, an outright bump off, quick play the ball, which will benefit those halves, like you kind of mentioned before. I just think that's what they're missing still. And I mean, they went to the market, they paid big money for Leo Thompson to come and do that, but we just haven't seen it yet. And we're still, I think 5 weeks or so.
I've got a theory. And this is just pure speculation, pure theory. There's no evidence to back it up. Sorry?
Scuttlebutt?
Tinfoil hat.
I am getting the feeling out of the Dogs that there are 2 conflicting narratives going on of the way they want to head as a footy club. Because I just can't believe the mixed messaging coming out of that club of direction. Like, we're talking about a club that was so ruthless that they moved on their 7 whilst on top of the table. Now, all of a sudden, they're too scared to make a hard change in the halves. I'm getting such...
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Mixed messaging. They were on top of the table, moved on essentially an Origin level 9. I know he didn't play, but he got part of the squad a couple of times, at least Marnie. And also Toby Sexton, who, yes, I understand. I could see the vision then. Like, even though I thought it was super harsh on Sexton, I could understand what they're saying. Like, with this current spine, can we beat the Brisbane Broncos when they're flying, or the Penrith Panthers? Probably not. But now it's like almost like they got themselves into this situation by being super ruthless, and then they got stage fright, and we're like, oh, hang on a sec, we'll pull back a little bit. And I know the Mitch Woods injury clouds it a little bit.
He wasn't ready though.
But everything that I've heard from the Dogs is he wasn't ready as well.
He wasn't ready.
So are there conflicting? Is there a bit of a power struggle or a direction struggle happening at the club at the moment?
I think, from what I know, Cameron Serraldo runs the football department of that side, right? Gus is Gus, and like. We shouldn't be surprised by the antics or by the commentary around Gus, because he's been doing it for years. He did it at Penrith. He's done it everywhere he's gone. He's just a powerful figure, right? And he's done so much great.
Super smart.
Yeah, he's done great stuff for that club. But I think when Gus is saying one thing, that doesn't mean that the rest of the football club is in agreement. He's doing that for whatever reason, whether he's trying to protect the football club. But I don't think what Gus is saying has direct impact on Serraldo and that playing squad that's taking the field every week. So I know that it seems like conflicting messages between, Gus is saying this, Cam's saying this. Is this happening internally as well? I think it's more, they're literally just putting different messages out to us.
But the only thing I would say to that, though, is that, like, okay, so that's fair enough in regards to public messaging. Like, maybe they're not connected and have no impact. But Gus still has a role at that club when it comes to... He's the general manager right now, correct? The general manager?
Yeah.
Full manager or something like that?
Yeah, football.
So, for example, in recruitment, who has the final say? Like, in regards to this key position we keep talking about, and, like, it just seems like... It seems like they made all these decisions last year to land at a certain spot, and then at the last minute before this season started, they've totally taken 3 steps back from that decision. Because, like, I was saying, honestly, heading into the start of last year, I was already saying I'm getting the feeling that Burton's getting either pushed to centre and has to take a downgrade, or pushed out of the club entirely. Even the Reid Marnie one, you could see that coming from like 2 years ago. And so I feel like they had all this big setup, and then they got to the final starting line and was like, you know what, let's just take a step back.
Do you think,
from
though, I think, Blake, you probably could answer this quite well, but do you think it's an ego problem? Do you think they've set their sights on these guys and now they've realised that they might be in a bit of trouble, but they don't want to change it because they don't want to look like they've made the wrong decision?
See, me personally, I'm a huge fan of Serraldo. Like, I think he's a gun coach, and he's one of the very rare coaches that I'll be surprised if by the end of his career he hasn't won a premiership. That's how much I rate him. So that's why I don't think he's scared to make tough calls, because he made them last year. Like that, when have we ever seen the number one side in the comp get rid of their 7 mid-year? That's one of the most ruthless calls I've ever seen in my life.
Do you know the hardest thing for me too is that they've created all their own storylines. Like they've all like the last 2 weeks they've done it to themselves. Yeah. Like if I reckon there was a lot of hysteria because the Knights beat them without Brown and Ponga. Now they weren't awful on that day. I just reckon the perception was, haha, you couldn't beat the Knights with them. Your attack's shit, and that was the general narrative. And then it was like, okay, we'll crack on to next week. If you look at the Souths and the Bulldogs game, it went exactly the way I thought it would, and many experts would. It had a big game feel to it, and South's big players in the big moments were going to stand up.
Souths are a good side this year.
But that's how the game went.
Yeah.
Like, Dogs were the best team for large chunks of that footy game. Their systems looked like they were back in play. They were going set for set with the Rabbits, and it looks like it was game on. They lose their captain. They make the decision that they make, whatever. And
made a bunch of errors as well.
But then South's big players stood up in the big moments, and that's how we thought it'd go. And then so they're 2 wins, 2 losses. I don't think they're going that bad.
No,
like
it's not that bad, especially with how close the like you've got Penrith and then literally everyone else.
I will say though, the self-inflicted nature of it though is the reality is that they have the worst attack in the comp, and they made all these plays mid last year to fix that, and they've gotten worse.
They brought Adam O'Brien.
Do you think the new
it's the Adam O'Brien situation?
Do you think the new rules have cruelled them?
They should help them. Ball in play, more 6 agains. They're fit. They're fast across the.
There was so much strike.
Just quickly, let's sit on the Adam O'Brien one. I got to say this, and I feel bad because he's had a tough couple of years, Adam O'Brien, and like he did some really good things at the Knights. But I just have to speak honestly, and I say this respectfully. But like, how does Adam O'Brien get brought in as the attack coach when that was the worst part of the Newcastle Knights?
Can I just say, how much of an impact do you think assistants have on footy teams?
I reckon it depends who the head coach is.
Yeah, I reckon so too. I reckon most of the teams I played in, they were always great shoulders to lean on. They'd always offer, bits and pieces here, but the large majority, they're setting up drills and the coach is telling us what's happening.
And what's the point of having Adam O'Brien there? Don't you think it's just a bad, and
I spoke to...
they're setting himself up.
Yeah, exactly.
I spoke to some of the players about this, and they said that their attack structure hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed one bit. There's no way it would have.
Yeah, Adam O'Brien was brought in to fine tweak those couple of things, and it hasn't worked yet. So I don't know if we're judging them too early, or because, like you said, the structure hasn't changed. What their plan is still the same. But
is it a good PR move though? And I say this,
disastrous.
I don't think they're thinking about PR moves though when they're trying to fix it.
He's not, but I think Gus would be, wouldn't he?
But also like PR matters for one.
Yeah.
But also like, if he's not coming in to make that many changes, why is he being brought in at all? Like, so they say he's just coming in to tweak a few things. So it's either he is having a lot of impact or he's not having a lot of impact. If he's not having a lot of impact, why have the PR?
Why take the guy from Newcastle?
Yeah, why do that? I don't.
We found out last week they were in advanced talks with Kieran Foran.
Yeah, reportedly. Yeah,
I don't know what role.
There was when Kieran retired, there were a few clubs like.
And I just want to be really clear with this because it makes me feel bad speaking so negative about Adam O'Brien when it's not his fault. Like their attack was already
bad.
Really, really poor.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming it on him. What I am saying is from a outside looking in, I just don't understand why you would get a coach where if he came as a defensive coach. If he came as a defensive coach, I'd say that's actually a really.
The Knights had defensive resolve.
They were gun.
Yeah.
They were one of the best in the competition.
I know they got the Knights with the wooden spoon, but Adam O'Brien does have a reputation behind him, especially as an assistant coach, on what he can do, and maybe that's what the Bulldogs were looking at.
But defensively, I reckon for sure, gun defensive coach, like genuinely a really, really good, at least the Knights were really, really good in defense. Anyway, it's not a big deal, but it's just another little thing that I'm like, why have the extra PR concern there, And I feel bad for Adam O'Brien because the defense was poor. Sorry, the attack was poor before he arrived, but it still is just a talking point that is coming out of a club that came third last year still.
But clearly they're worried. Like they're concerned about their attack.
Yeah, 100%.
I actually haven't been as concerned because I just think last year that was just the footy team they were. I don't think they were ever brilliant in attack last
They
year.
were a defensive team last year.
But they could go toe to toe with, and they actually brought the best out in all the teams they played. But clearly they're quite concerned because they've made 2 decisions the last 2 weeks that tells us that they're concerned internally about their lack of points. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm still relatively high on the Dogs. I still have them in my 8. I do think that once things settle and they pull the Band-Aid off and they move Galvin to 6, they bring in O'Sullivan. Are they going to win a premiership? No, I don't think so. I think they're still a year or 2 away from it. But I do think that things will click into gear for them. As long as they just need a circuit breaker win, because I will say in that second half, it did seem like all the negative noise around the club was a little bit seeping into the playing group. Like, I've never seen that playing group make that many errors in a big game. Like, genuinely, so many penalties, so many drop balls. So I've still got him in my 8. I'm really excited to see how Ciraldo bounced back from this. I'm still a massive fan of Ciraldo, I think. And, it's early in the season as well. You know, we could be looking back at this and going, you know what? It was a blow up about not much because they are 2-2. So it's like...
Do you think we see Mitch Woods this year then? Or
Oh,
because that's ground zero again, ain't it?
Yeah. Like, it's almost like, is there... Look, you know what? I reckon it depends. I reckon they're at a point where they kind of need results. So, if let's say they're sitting 4th on the table or some shit like that, I don't think they'll be as ruthless of like, all right, let's get Mitch Wood in now and try. I think that they're probably in a position where, you know what, let's finish as high as we possibly can this year. And then, whereas like last year and the year before, they kind of could get away with not having as good as results because the plan was always like, okay, you know, we're building towards something.
Do you reckon last year they thought they were ahead of schedule, but like there was kind of an internal feeling that they knew that they were probably overachieving a little bit? Do you reckon?
Yeah.
And that's why they sort of made the decisions because they still felt like they had pieces of the
that
puzzle
would make
they
sense.
had to get right.
That makes the most amount of sense. Because when they made that tough call between Galvin and Sexton
and
Marnie, they were sitting at the top of the table.
That was long-term, short-term pain for a little long-term gain.
I just for the life of me, I don't know what you saw in Galvin to say he's a 7. Like, we're talking about a rookie year, essentially.
Well, I think if you listen to a lot of Gus's commentary, and I can buy into this. Like, he's of the belief now we don't need a general. And I can sort of buy into it, but in the sense that the general back in the day, your job was to speed up and slow down the game. Now the ref does that for you by waving his arm around. So if you hold on to the footy and you run the ball, like, people need to be really careful not to cut and paste what Melbourne have done well for the last sort of 5 years with Munster and Jarome Hughes, because Melbourne's been the only really club that's been able to have success with those style of halves.
Yep.
But I reckon Gus is starting to really believe and buy into the idea that you don't, like, the general's gone.
Yeah, but then you've got Cleary, the most typical 7 in all time, and it's 4 in a row.
There's anomalies, but ain't there? And do you drop Cleary in the Dogs, and does he look like Nathan Cleary in the Panthers?
I think you drop Cleary in that dog side. I reckon they absolutely are probably premiership contenders. That's how I.
He's a freak. He's a freak. But like, they've got so much good things going for them, the Panthers.
Yeah, they do. Alrighty. Let's get on to another big talking point, mate. The Dragons. So, Flanagan named 7.
Yeah, we touched on this in the Monday show, Tuesday show this week.
Yep.
So
Flanagan, as long.
Yeah, Flanagan named 7. Atkinson named 6. Sloan at fullback. Gutherson's supposed to be out until I think about round 9, which was a lot longer than what we initially thought. So yeah, the big I'm not going to say big change. Big changes in Gutherson not being there, but the Flanagan Atkinson situation is quite interesting because, as I think you touched on, Flanagan, despite having number 6 on his back, always played very.
He's a 7 out.
7 like, and Atkinson is ball runner, right?
Yep.
So are we in a situation now where we've just changed the numbers, but the results and the game plan?
I reckon I know what happened.
Okay, tell me.
I reckon, and Shane gets flack because he done it for his son, but I reckon what Shane done was he told everyone about 12 weeks ago in the middle of preseason when no one could even be bothered about rugby league. So he's pretty clever. He got on the front foot and he said Dan's going to be the 7, Cole's going to be the 6. I reckon he thought he was relieving the pressure for his halfback, who also happens to be his son. So when people think about it, they don't think that he's relieving pressure for his halfback. They think he's relieving it for his son. Now, his son's also a player that the fans were probably fed up with. So they go, oh, look, he's trying to support his son. But he tried to relieve the pressure to say, hey, we're going to lay up on Kyle. Kyle's actually been pretty good. And I know you don't like him, but we're going to lay up on him. He's going to wear the 6 and everything's going to go on Daniel's shoulders. But in many ways, I reckon he actually made it worse for his son. Because Kyle's style of game, I reckon you can accept it as a 7. But his lack of flair and exuberance, you can't accept that as a 6. Because what do we need from our 6? We need him to be a moments guy and take, add to that sort of part of the game. And then on the flip side, he actually doubled the pressure on
so unfair on Atkinson.
Your marquee signing, who's never proven to be a 7 either. So I like what he tried to do, but he actually made things worse. But then to his credit, I love that he's brave enough to put it back. Like I reckon a coach.
Do you reckon he did it, or do you reckon he got a direction from above, mate?
No, I think Shane's done it. It's not the first time we've seen it as well. I remember a couple of years ago when Luke Brooks was struggling at 7, they all of a sudden put Luke Brooks in a 6 jersey. It's not a first of its kind of move, and like Blake said,
I will say he did do it last year for King Tonga, and he had King Tonga in the 7 jersey and Flanagan in the 6, and I was like, mate, that's a rookie. So there was this one game where I think King Tonga, like it was a golden point game or whatever, and a lot of fans were frustrated at King Tonga because he had the 7 on his back, but it was like, no, he's not the 7, it's Kyle Flanagan's the 7. King Tonga's always been a 6 coming through.
Well, this is the chat we've had about the Sharks now for 5 years straight, and Craig Fitzgibbon's gone, Nico's going to wear the 7 and Trindle's going to wear the 6, and they play the reverse roles.
Yeah.
And for me, your game's not going to change by the number, but what does change is the expectation of the viewer.
Yeah.
So if you have a chance as a coach to relieve the pressure based on swapping the numbers, I don't see why you wouldn't take it. But having said that, Shane tried that, and I reckon it actually doubled the pressure on both of them.
Do you think the pressure's too far in now, though, where like swapping the numbers isn't, if it's not going to change the result, which I don't believe it will, and I'd love to get your guys' opinions on that, but if it's not going to change the result, isn't that just going to add more kind of pressure after
I reckon
the game?
It could do wonders for Atkinson. I reckon in a way as a coach you're going, damn, we probably got this a bit wrong. We just want you to now wear the 6 and we want you to just play free footy. Do you know what I mean? We don't want this.
Yeah. The tough thing for Atkinson though is like, so let's assume, and this is what's like, again, this is a whole talking point that doesn't need to be a talking point. If this didn't happen, we'd be going, Kyle Flanagan's a 7, Atkinson's a 6, and we could judge them on what their role is. But let's just assume for a second that Atkinson was always the 6, but he just had 7 on his back, and Flanagan was always the 7, but had 6 on his back. Like the unfairness on Atkinson is crazy. Like because he's getting smashed by the media, by everyone, by being terrible at leading the team around. They're 0-5, and it's like, well, hang on a sec. I've got to take all the negative chat, and also I can't even really play the way I want to play. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. It just I tend to agree. I personally believe that he probably was a mixture of both, trying to take pressure off Flanagan because no matter what he did, the fans were going to be at him. But I also do think there was an element of it, like he was his son, and it's only natural to feel that way. And this is why father-son combinations don't usually work unless your name's Nathan Cleary. And I like to remind people on this, bro. 2019. The whole Panthers community, or not the whole, I won't say that, most of the Panthers fans, or a lot, they were calling for both Cleary's heads on it. So even those two, who are as good as they are, had fans off them back then. Now, obviously, it's worked out for them, but I guess we'll see what happens.
The lesson is too, but like we love the shiny new toy. Like Dan Atkinson, there's a difference between pinch hitting for your club that you're at, and that was at the Sharks. Like every time you come in, we've seen enough that he had the potential. But wearing that jersey week in, week out, it brings a different pressure.
Yeah.
Now, the Dragons fans are now calling for the same thing with Cade Reed.
Yeah.
What's going to happen in 3 weeks when he doesn't guide a team around?
You can't bring him up.
There's not a chance in... No, I did some media last night. There's not a chance in hell. There's so many selfish Dragons fans that just want to see change and they want to see something new. It'd be the worst decision. And you know what? He could be great, but it could also stun him for 5 to 7 years, and it's not worth the risk at this point in time.
Especially they're not getting anywhere near their own coaches said we're not winning a comp. So
do you reckon that's coming? Like, do you reckon the board's sitting down going, "Gee, we probably..." Like I said at the time, I understand.
Need to say it,
but I understood at the time what he was saying. But I'm going, this is going to come back to bite him. Because if you're looking at the results now, you're going, bro, the evidence was there at the start of the season.
What were you doing all off season to get you to that point where you go, yeah, we had no chance?
We all agreed with him, but you just don't say
You
it.
don't need to say it. That's the thing. No one made him say it.
Everyone has false confidence, right? I remember talking to Titans players and people around the Titans in the off season, and they were telling, we've improved a lot. Like, they didn't say they were going to win a comp. They didn't say they were going to lose one, though.
I do think, too, sometimes things get catastrophically bad just before they get better. I think there's enough evidence in that club that they are on the right path. Keon comes in next year. I think he improves that pack that's already a pretty solid young pack. He's an alpha dog that can step in. If we've seen what he done against the Dogs the other day, man, he was brilliant on one leg. So I think they improve. Kyle, I think, is definitely the best 7 in that club right now. So the Dragons fans need to relax. He's going to be there for the rest of the year, whether you like it or not. And then hopefully we can just get Dan Atkinson to a level that, at a bare minimum, you want Dan Atkinson firing by the time they find their next number 7.
Just run the ball.
And that's all they need him to do.
I wouldn't hate him at fullback.
I wouldn't hate it fullback either.
I think we're past that, but
they got no one there at the moment. Like Sloan has had many opportunities. Gutho's getting moved to the centres most likely.
Yeah, the word is that Gutho won't return to fullback.
I don't mind it, to be honest. I honestly, like, they're in such a tough spot right now. Anyway, we'll see.
But then you go on King Tonga and Flanagan,
and they were okay at times last year. Like they had runs where King Tonga and Kyle Flanagan, did all right last year.
Yeah, okay.
This is all powered as well and brought to you by Aspley Mazda, Luke Camilleri, LDC_01. Give him a message if you need a car. Massive thank you to Aspley Mazda. And also shout out to KO Sports. Watch every game live and ad break free on KO Sports. Okay, Ipswich Jets. Ipswich bid boss. So have you got the notes there?
Yes.
Okay, what's going on there? The Ipswich Jets.
Yeah, so Ipswich has the boss, Steve Johnson, has revealed that there's a United States private equity firm that is keen to invest millions into the franchise if the NRL decides to expand to a 20-team competition. The NRL is facing, competition from the AFL, who have they've announced that in 2024 they announced that they put $1 billion in a plan to double participation numbers to 1 million by targeting Queensland and New South Wales. So Peter V'landys has seen this and all of a sudden he's on board. He wants to
ching ching.
anytime the AFL is threatening a rugby league heartland like Ipswich is, V'landys loves to get on board. And yeah, it seems that there is a bit of money that this US private equity firm is keen to throw in. They just need the guarantee from the NRL that they'll put it in if there's a chance for them to come in the comp.
Far out. What are your thoughts on that, mate?
It sound like a ransom note.
Yeah. We need a guarantee, and they will put the money in. So, how much money are they guaranteeing to put in?
The figure I don't have right in front of me, but there's a lot. They said they're willing to put it into the account as soon as there's a guarantee.
That's fucking. Can you
I
imagine?
think obviously when someone
60 million. 60 million.
It's not like it's actually not as much as I thought initially, and I know that sounds crazy to say, but for example, Redcliffe, not only do they have assets fucking everywhere, they've got 100 million in the bank essentially just sitting there, and like it's look. Thoughts, mate? Thoughts?
I reckon we've got to figure out. Like we need a whole of game picture on where it's heading first. Like just adding another team. Like we've barely heard a peep out of Perth. Like all we speak about is PNG and the tax-free money. Now PNG is 2 years away. Perth's next year.
That's crazy. Perth next year. That's actually crazy, bro.
It is pretty insane. Like if you think about all the help PNG's getting, I don't know if we're doing enough to be helping Perth. Like there hasn't been 100%. A lot of chat. Like I know when the Giants come into Western Sydney. I know when the Gold Coast Suns come into the Gold Coast. There was things in place for them to be absolutely successful. The Giants have come off a really good sort of 5 to 7 to 10 years. The Gold Coast Suns are now they're making a huge dent on the Gold Coast from all reports. So I reckon we've got a few areas in our own backyard that we have to get absolute, and we have to shore that up. And then competition wise, then we really need to start figuring out are we then getting into. Are we heading down the path of conferences? Are we talking about shorter seasons? Are we I think
Landys has said in a perfect world it's just 20 games and each team plays each other once. I think he said that like maybe last year or something like that. Yeah, in regards to direction, I will say initially I was a bit like 3 teams in Queensland, in Brisbane. Are we just getting the Sydney problem now where there's too many teams that you could argue? Like, imagine how competitive the Sydney teams would be if there was like one or two less teams. Like, imagine the standard of fucking players would be in each team. But then I think it was a Ben Eichen podcast or something like that, and he was talking about how aggressively the AFL are targeting the western part of Queensland. And I just think that, listen, the one thing that AFL do so much better than us is they spend so much money on trying to develop juniors. They go to schools and basically open up their truck and say, you know, here's a $500 voucher, take whatever you want in regards to equipment. Like, they are the best in the business.
That's where they get a lot of their numbers. I think it's called Auskick.
Yeah.
That's where they get a lot of their numbers from, which is...
We need, if the other thing we can do as a game too, but we need to upskill more footballers. So I reckon we missed a trick so when we announced Perth and when we announced PNG, like I reckon we should have went down the path of a veteran player development option. So I reckon there was a chunk of players between 27 and 31 that we should have opened up 2 or 3 spots in every team's roster so we can upskill 3 more guys in every squad. Because we are going to run out of talent. There's no doubt about that.
When you say upskill, so what do you mean by that?
So I reckon a large difference between a lot of blokes plying their trade in the New South Wales Cup and Queensland Cup. There is definitely a difference, but these guys are juggling work and playing footy. Like if we opened up 3 spots in every roster, you're talking, what's that? Like, that's 45 to 50.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so you're saying those guys that are easily talented enough.
So
to
we
play
could have
NRL.
had them in a full-time NRL system for 2 or 3 years by the time the new franchises come in, and then that spreads the talent a little better. The problem is right now, if you didn't get it right, so everyone gets obsessed with the next 15 and 16-year-old, but they're miles off. We know how far off them kids are. So I reckon we need to find a way to bring back a chunk of them players back into our game. And that's what's going to rise the talent numbers that we can then disperse across all our franchises.
Yeah, it's really hard because it's great that you mentioned that. I remember going through like SG ball systems and that, and looking back at guys that are making their NRL debuts now, which like I'm 23, that's around the time where a lot of them will come through. There's so many players that I played with and that I was in squads with that just stopped playing rugby league in general, who were that talented, who were those guys. But like you said, when you start juggling work and you start juggling all these other things, comes too hard, right?
Yeah.
To do on a full-time basis.
And I mean, the clubs they do this where, you know, they put you on a training trial, and they say that you don't need to be at every single session. Like, they go, you just make whatever you can or whatever. But then as soon as you, let's say, okay, well, I won't be there early in the week and I'll just come for Thursday, Friday sessions, you're behind the 8 ball. There's no way you're getting to start doing that. And so they've got a bunch of players who, you know, you see the headline of like, minimum wage is 150K. That's for like the top 30. But squads are like, what are they? They're like 45 players these days, squads, at least in the preseason.
Development contracts.
Yeah, and so you've got
training trials.
Some of these older guys that are on like, you know, $800 to $1,000 being expected to like.
The training trials are $1,000 a week.
But we've got issues
NRL
with the
team.
development contracts now too, because they're handing them to 15-year-olds 4 years down the track at the back end of their 4-year deal because they don't want to lose this next great 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, we don't even know what they're going to look like at 19.
Yeah.
But someone says, hey, the Broncos want to buy this kid, and the only way you're going to hang on to him is if you put a dev year on the end of his deal. So we just get so obsessed with the shiny new toy once again.
Yeah.
And I reckon sometimes we make these decisions as a game, but we don't actually delve a little deeper. And like, look what the AFL, the Giants got first and second draft picks for the first 10 years straight. Now, to the naked eye, that looks a bit unfair, but the game said, no, we've identified this area as an area we must be strong. So we're going to do all we can to make sure it is strong, not have a franchise do your best and we'll see where it lands in 5 years' time. Like, we need to delve a little deeper. And
well, I think we got like the Dolphins didn't get any support essentially. Like, to my understanding, like it was truly like, do your best. Here's your license. Do your best. So like, think about now they're not struggling. They've actually been quite good. They haven't made finals yet. But like, that's where I look at Perth and like no help whatsoever.
But we've never been a game that helps, right?
Nah, never.
But now all of a sudden with PNG, we're gonna waive tax.
Yeah.
So like, how does that become fair?
Yeah.
How does all of a sudden we've gone from no help to we're going to double your salary with no tax?
I tell you why they do it is because the government's involved.
Yeah, I know why they do it, but it's still our game.
No, but what I'm trying to say is why they're doing it is that they can't afford for PNG to fail because the government's involved. So if PNG fail, the government take a black eye. So that's
what would a failure be in PNG? But
well, let's say
do you reckon it's a low bar, but would it be financial failure?
I think a bit of both. Like, let's say it doesn't capture fire, and you know they're losing every single game.
Would you be shocked?
I wouldn't be shocked, but there's still a let's say for whatever reason it doesn't work, there is a voter base that would judge the government on that. Because let's say I'm a person that doesn't want the government to put $600 million into this fucking PNG bid or whatever, and then it fails as well, I'm never fucking voting for that person again. Like, you just put 600, and not only did it, you just take taxpayers' money and do that, it didn't even work.
Especially with everything else going on in the world at the moment.
Yeah, like
as
it
well.
literally, with the cost of living crisis, with all this kind of stuff, it literally didn't even work. Like, at the very least, let's say I didn't agree with the decision, but then it goes and works, and I see this country that's been struggling for so long, you know, it lifts the nation slightly and gives young kids an opportunity, and I don't know, crime reduces and poverty reduces slightly. At the very least, you could say to yourself, oh, well, okay, I didn't agree with it, but at least it's done some good.
Most of those things you just mentioned are probably going to happen, you reckon? Like, it will lift the country slightly, and it will...
I think that's why, like, you know, look, I'm not getting into politics or whatever, guys, but I do think it will help that nation. Like, I really do think that a lot of young, especially, I mean, I could not even begin to empathise, but just to give a lot of young people hope over there, like just whether it is supporting the team each weekend and having people represent you and making you feel like there's something bigger to grab hold of, or a lot of young people that instead of when they're 10, 11, 12, when the kids all go out and do crazy shit, they're like, oh, I'll go and train instead, or I'll do this. All those programs, they're so vital. I mean, you can
agree
speak
with
on
that.
They're
Agree with all
so
that.
vital to young kids.
I just find it hard to believe we've never really helped anyone, but now, like, the level of help is so insane.
Oh,
like, I'm
yeah,
hearing
Well, the like to add to Campy's point, the PNG team is bigger than Rugby League, and so it's not just Rugby League or the NRL that's giving this team and this nation the help. It's an entity so much bigger than us that, you know, I still think that we're a game that doesn't help anyone directly. This has to do with another entity helping more than anything, which is the government.
I will say it's also like, you know, and again, look, I'm a dummy, so just take this with a grain of salt. But so a lot of people reckon, or I guess professors or whatever, reckon a big reason why America dictate culture around the world is because of Hollywood, and is because of the media in which they put out. They win the culture that way, and China and that have spent $1 billion trying to do the same thing. It's why India with Bollywood and everything like that has a bit of impact across the world. And so the argument for it succeeding is the cultural impact it'll have with PNG, with such a crucial part of the world in between China. And also you look at, I guess you could say, questionable regimes in certain places in the world. They use sport to, what's the word? It's called sports washing or whatever, and essentially their reputation gets changed and gets seen in a positive light because of all the sport they're doing. And so you could argue now, obviously I don't think Australia is like some of these other countries, but you could argue Australia is with Rugby League getting connected with the PNG people and almost creating that environment of a strong connection compared to, say, let's say China came in and bought up a bunch of stuff and spent a bunch of money kind of thing. So there's that part of it as well that I think is important from a geopolitical stance. Again, I'm a dummy guy, so I'm sure there's some guy way smarter than me out there that knows more. But that's also a part of it, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when they come in.
Yeah. So Ipswich Jets, yay or nay, boys?
At the moment, I'm going to say nay. I'd like to see the competition get a bit closer before we start adding more teams in.
Yeah, time for a little settle, little relaxed
Even
period.
if, let's say, what if I said that like AFL are making massive inroads there?
Yeah, well, like that's a great point. I guess the only the people running the game would know whether it's a threat enough to jump at it. Like, the thing with all of Peter Valandi's decisions is I think transparency is all that the sort of, like, they just want to be brought in on a little bit of the background info. And like, even the Vegas stuff, like, I reckon we all got caught up in the bright lights for so long and we all sort of forgot to say, what is it that we're actually doing here? Now, it became pretty clear over the years that we're looking for gambling dollar, and that's fine. Like, I don't have any issues with that, but just sort of let us in on it a little bit. And I know you can't really come out and just say that, but
well, I think eventually he did basically just come out and say it, but the first couple of years,
because there was idiot fans going, we're going to have a franchise, there's going to be a Hawaiian Rugby League team, and I'm going, no, like, it's not why we're going here, man. Do you know what I mean? So,
I will say, like, look, I don't know how much it cost us. Apparently we made profit this year. I don't know. But geez, it has stolen that round one spot. Like,
it has,
it's smashed that. Like, the AFL are playing catch up at least with that, and obviously their gather round. Oh my god, so cringe. Gather round. Oh, the cringest name ever, bro. It's so AFL, bro. That is so Melbourne. Like, let's all gather round and enjoy footy together.
Get a bit
guys.
of magic in there.
Fuck
Magic's
off.
way better.
Gather round. They
Could you
fucking
imagine
hate
if they
each
called
other,
it
bro.
Magic Round, Bar?
Oh,
Mate, honestly, I'd respect it more because it's
Yeah,
just
true.
a straight fuck you. Like, bro, gather round. Oi, hey, dickheads. The fans hate each other. That's what makes AFL great. They fucking hate each other. They're not gathering. Like, come on, bro. Cringe. AFL's cringe. Official. Said it. Okay, big news, guys. Purdue reportedly signed. It's confirmed. Wow, what a get. What a get. So he'll extend till 2030. I'll go to you first, mate. What is his best position? And do you agree with the signing and all that good stuff?
Oh, you had to move heaven and earth to keep him. In terms of position, I want to see it just naturally, organically unfold. I love that. Like we talk about what a coach can do to a half's confidence. You have a look at the way Clifford's playing this year, and he looks like a player that finally feels back. Like I reckon last year there seemed to be a real sense that they wanted him to be the guy, but they still sort of moved him in and out a little bit. They backed him for round one. I reckon after Vegas he probably flies home and goes, "Oh gee, I hope he doesn't move Purdue and I'm the casualty." But he's getting back now and he's playing really good footy.
He's their best player this year so far.
I agree with that. I think if you want to see how confident he's playing, he's running lines like a back rower in support. I think he's really understanding the game. So I think for now, for the balance of their team, I reckon Purdue at centre's the best option.
Yep.
I've created this idea at the Cowboys that I think Scott Drinkwater. I always get Josh and Scott mixed up.
Yep.
Scott's the only one that's allowed to take any real risks in their attacking flow, which sounds weird, but the rest of the players they've got around them are actually big enough bodies to really take you on physically, and that can allow Drinkwater to be the jack in the box, and they've found a really nice rhythm. So I think he's a left centre for now. Clearly, the money they've paid, I reckon at some point he moves.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to get to you. Tyson the Terminator. What's going on at the Cowboys? Is this a long-term play for him to be fullback? What's doing?
yeah, I'm a bit concerned because the questions around Jaxon Purdue re-signing there all had to do with position. They tried to move him into the halves. It didn't work.
Position or money, but did he just want the money for the position, or did he have
I think
to play the
they
position?
go hand in hand. He doesn't want to play at centre.
Like I reckon if Purdue says pay me as a half or a fullback, I'll still play centre as long as you got a bit of a plan for me.
Yeah, well, I think that's the case, right? They have a plan for him to shift closer. I mean, if you move to fullback, you could say closer to the ball, but to move into a position where he's going to have more impact on a game and get his hands on the ball more. I personally, like you said, Blake, really liked the Scott Drinkwater at fullback, Purdue as a strike centre, like him in open play with if a defensive line makes any mistake around Purdue, they pay for it instantly.
Do you reckon I reckon we're back in the era of the Ferrari centres too, man.
Okay.
Like McLean's, Katoni Staggs,
Yep.
Stephen Crichton's. The game's got that much fatigue in it now. I reckon we're finally seeing a game that goes, hey, just toss your centre the ball and they can kind of come up with
That's
the
what
rest.
the Cowboys have done so well in the last. Have they won three on the trot now?
Three on the trot, yeah.
That's what they've done the last 3 weeks so well, just by getting Purdue the ball. Because once that fatigue gets in, he becomes unstoppable almost. And what he lacks in size, he makes up for in X factor and speed and agility. My biggest concern is where does this leave Scott
I
Drinkwater
was going
now?
to say that it's all sunshine and rainbows at the moment, but there's a bloke that comes off contract 27.
Yeah, and there have been rumblings that he's been getting shopped around to different clubs. So
Tomalalo, how long left?
Sorry?
How long's Tomalalo got?
I'm not sure.
One more year after this? So there's money freeing up. Mm-hmm. How many $1 million players can you have in your team? Because Clifford's not going to become $1 million player. Dearden's you could probably still make a case that Dearden's only an $850 half, or do you reckon he's $1 million half now?
State of Origin.
I'd just say with where he's at that club,
Origin,
I'd say 800 at a club's winning premierships, about $1 million at the Cowboys. I
Okay,
reckon.
so
Yeah.
if he's is Drinkwater definitely $1 million fullback? Probably to the
I'd have
Dragons, you reckon he
Drinkwater-
is?
Yeah, if he signs with the Dragons, he'd be $1 million. At the
Dragons,
Cowboys, I'd have him
850.
So could you have $3 million players?
But it's where you're putting it. Like, can a centre on $1 million impact the game enough?
But I'm wondering like was Gaznia one of your highest earners back when centres were great? Or was he not?
I just don't like the idea of paying a centre $1 million when I'd rather pay a couple front rowers like $850.
Well, that's what the Bulldogs' issue is at the moment. If they move Burden to the centers, they're going to have $2 million centers. The Rabbitohs currently have $2 million centers.
So Dogs is Critter $1 million center?
Yeah, I mean, from a leadership perspective, I think he probably
okay.
puts himself there. But just quickly, so like how to your understanding, how serious is the idea that Drinkwater may not re-sign with the club after 27?
Well, I think if he has it his way, he'll re-sign with the club. But I think the option might be taken away from him. I think there's every world where, from what I'm hearing, he could be forced to come back to Sydney. And yes, there's clubs that will take him, like you mentioned, the Dragons. There was a link with the Tigers, which came from a pretty good source. But talking to people at the Tigers, I don't know how realistic that is right now where they sit. But Dragon seems like the obvious option. I mean, Perth would throw big money at him too.
Before we go down that route, though, do we agree that this is the right course of action for the Cowboys? Like, Purdue, superstar, will probably play, well, not superstar yet, but star will probably play Origin, I'd assume. But Drinkwater, he has for year on year on year essentially been a top 10 Dally M player. And
he's won the Cowboys games individually. I've watched him win the Cowboys games just off his own talent and off his own back.
Do you think there's starting to become noise in the club that he's been great for so long, but he also hasn't
added to
any real success for our club? And do you think so? If do you think then they start to think, well, we invest in the younger guy that can probably get somewhere near and can probably even play a slightly different brand of footy that they might enjoy? You'd love to know what their actual plan are the plans. Are they saying to Purdue that you're going to be a centre for 12 to 18 months and then or is it,
I just think it's a big call because, like, Drinky, he is essentially a top 5 attacking player in the comp every year he plays NRL, more than 20 games or whatever. And so, like, that is a tough act to follow. Like, you might be a really, really good star, a young guy coming through, but until you've actually done it for that many years.
Look, you're shaking up your spine too.
Yeah, I can understand why they are. Like, I'm not saying it's an unreasonable decision. I just, be careful what you wish for. Drinky's been there,
he's my favourite fullback in the comp. Like, to me, that is what a fullback is.
Oh, man, he's so good. And look, defence, and I know people watching him go, come on, what about his defence? Great, I'm with you. Defensively, he has some lapses, but, like, unfortunately, Purdue, I know he's still young. He's got plenty of time to learn. Right now, his biggest weakness is his defence. So it's like, mate, it's a tough one. Like, with Purdue, here's another option.
But he's 5'8" out of the...
I was going to say, does Clifford move on after a couple of years?
Like, is Clifford rostered on?
Yeah.
Like, he's probably... Clifford, they're probably still going. So I reckon they've got enough up their sleeve where they're going, well, I reckon this will figure itself out.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is if Clifford doesn't continue on the trajectory that we think he may...
Then we
can make him a 6. But if Clifford does, we've got that, Drinky's coming off at the right time that we can really consider that as well. So I reckon they've kind of covered their bases with spending that money on Purdue. So it's probably not a bad play by the club.
A spine with Dearden, Purdue at his peak, Drinkwater at his peak is fucking red hot stuff.
I don't see why he couldn't become an elite number 6.
I think he already could. He just sorted his defense out.
Yeah,
like I think
his running game is one of the best in the competition.
And what's weird is, like, I felt like the Cowboys had already made this call because they moved Dearden to 7 almost unnecessarily last year. Like, and it seemed like they did that to accommodate a guy like Purdue coming in. Obviously, Purdue tried. It didn't really work out. It needs some time, which is fine. Like, that's natural for any rookie. So, yeah, you know what? It probably is. They're probably banking on, listen, if Clifford keeps going that way, then we keep Clifford there. We put him to fullback. If Drinky keeps killing it and Clifford just, plateaus a little bit. I mean, who's to say,
he's got a little bit of young Jack Whiten about him, I reckon, Purdue.
He's a big
Jack
rangy
defensively is crazy, like can bang the best of them, but he strikes me as that type of player. So we may be talking about Purdue for the next 12 years. What is his best position?
Yeah.
Like, I guess we're all kind of thinking that it always solves itself, but it doesn't always solve itself. Like, Jack Whiten spent time at 6, won a Dally M at 6. He won 3 Raiders medals as a fullback for the club. He's now a centre. Origin, he plays centre.
Same with Latrell. There was talks that Latrell should move to 6.
Yeah, we're kind of thinking, right? Like, it'll all... Like, it may not.
May not. I will say, like, is there a world where Clifford stays on 300 or 400K a year and they have him in the roster?
If they're winning and you get the talent, you don't change a winning side, I don't think.
I reckon he'd be very apprehensive to move away from Townsville again.
Clifford?
Yeah, because he went to Super League and he went and it just didn't... I don't know. He looked like a fish out of water in the UK. He seems like a Townsville kid.
So, like, do they get him for cheap? Like, a reserve grade half on 300 or 400K is definitely manageable in a cap. Like, that's what you probably are paying your reserve grade halves these days. So there's that as well. Like, I think this is a great sign for the club. I will say it's a huge show of faith for Peyton. Like, I know it doesn't lock him in to be extended or anything like that, but like, fuck, you know, Peyton was under pressure 2 weeks ago.
Do you reckon Purdue, but he's a big enough piece in that club that it's probably not even a Todd Peyton decision?
Well, no, it's more what I mean from a perspective of Purdue's faith in the club.
Oh, yeah, got you.
Because, Peyton might... Who's the coach that could come in?
They have talent, though. They have a lot of talent there. So whether Todd Payton's the head coach there or not,
$1 million bucks is $1 million too.
Yeah, and that too.
True.
Like you've got a lot of talent at that club where they can make something happen.
Eels, they're looking to seek compensation over foul play. 3 high-profile... Actually, you've got that there, mate. What do you got?
So, as you were saying, 3 high-profile Eels players, which Jermaine Hopgood, Matt Dory, and now Bailey Simonson are all out due to foul play.
Is that Yongi?
Yongi as well, as well. Yeah, sorry. I think the 3 that I mentioned will probably miss the rest of the season, and Yongi should hopefully be back in about 10 weeks. And they're missing all this time when the culprits of these incidents are only missing 6 weeks, in total. So CEO Jim Sarantinos confirmed that he's planned to open formal discussions with head office over the concept. They're hoping that they can get some salary cap relief to, either plug some holes in their cap or in their squad, or start building towards something else.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because it's like, you would say it's fair for the year that it happens. Like, yeah, that seems fair. Like, your player's out from foul play. It's a whole season. But what are the ramifications for the year after and the year after that? I'm leaning towards, I do think it probably is fair to get some compensation if your player gets taken out through foul play and we know it's foul play. Salary caps are so complicated these days, though. If
it was only one player, I'd say good on Parramatta for asking the question. I think you're doing the right thing asking the question.
Is there a quota maybe? Like, any more than 2 players, you get compensation or something.
They've had 3 big injuries, so you can argue that they actually need to be able to fill.
Smash their squad. Their squad is smashed right now from that.
So I think there is an argument there. I think, like you said, one player you probably can't do.
What do you make of the Simonson one? Like, in my condolences goes out to Bailey because no one wants to see that happen. Mm-hmm. But there's a young kid on the other team that probably, like, he could have. Did he do a hell of a lot wrong as a winger?
I can understand the argument that we shouldn't be punishing people based on the injury. Because if he gets up, walks away, it's a penalty, it's all good. However, the reason why that is a penalty is to deter players from putting other players in dangerous positions.
Yeah, fair.
And that's where I'm like, the whole point of the penalty is to stop players from being put in that position. And the worst outcome happened. And so that's where I can kind of understand where the NRL are coming from and why he was sent 10 in the bin, because it's like, I get it that, if he gets up and walks away, we escape and everyone's fine, but it's literally in the rule book to stop this exact thing from happening. So what
I agree with the 10 in the bin and the penalty. But there's been a lot of hysteria, and I know a lot of it's come from Parramatta Eels fans and stuff, but
listen, he didn't mean to fucking do it.
He didn't do a hell of a lot wrong. And
he was in the midair.
He's probably panicked as well, right? Like,
you don't know what you're doing in the air.
He's gone, and you see on the footage, he's gone up to get the ball. He's realised Simonson's got him the ball, and it's just second nature almost where he's grabbed him. Like,
I think the thing is this is like, the NRL have to come down relatively hard-ish on him, even though he didn't do much wrong, because we can never have this happen again.
Yeah, got you.
I think that wingers going up now must be like, bro, like I cannot tackle someone in the air, because funnily enough, it was only the day before where someone got 10 in the bin for a professional foul for grabbing an arm in the air, and no injury happened.
You probably come through an era where people used to compete like that at training,
bro.
And now it's like normal. It's common knowledge at training that you don't compete. So it's a similar idea,
mate. It was a different time. Like, it was the fucking Wild West when we came through. It was like, of course you compete in the air. Fucking take each other. Like, it was just the Wild
Even
West.
Hip drops. Mate, I come through an era where I was a ball running 5'8", so you poke your nose through the line quite a bit. You just knew that you were at risk of getting, so you had to make a decision. Am I going to poke through? And it wasn't great because you had to limp to the car and you carried an ankle injury for most of the year. But that was just our sport. Do you know what I mean? How else are you supposed to get someone down from behind?
What did you guys make of the suspension? Do you think one match is?
Honestly, and
I'm glad if there was any suspension that it was only one match.
Yeah. I think
don't
it's fair.
Yeah,
I
you couldn't
think
go
it's fair.
harsher than that, though. I don't think.
Maybe 2, but I think 1 is fair because there was no intention. It was just a heat of the moment thing.
So
Yeah.
are we then saying that the sin bin only came because he broke his ankle?
Yeah, for sure.
Because
I think
clearly
so.
the suspension they haven't taken the injury into account with the suspension, have they, with 1 week?
Well, I think
and I
they
don't
kinda-
want them to either.
I think they kind of have because, like, again, if he gets up and walks away, he's not getting suspended.
He wouldn't
at
even
all.
get a week, you reckon?
Yeah,
okay.
I think they've gone I think they've understood that this is a bit of a weird area.
Yep.
And that if they go too hard, then it's like, mate, how's he missing 6 weeks? Like, injuries happen in rugby league, So I think they've kind of landed somewhere in the middle where it's like, I think if you're being reasonable, you can see both sides of the argument. Like, anyone that's sitting there saying, nah, the other side's fucking totally wrong, that's bullshit. It's like, you're not really being reasonable.
Well, it's interesting because the chat around the hip drop one that the Dragons kid did, and like this one is, everyone's a bit more in agreement that it's a freak accident. We don't see this happen a lot. But hip drops, we do see injuries. So I reckon everyone sort of copped his longer suspension.
Yeah. I think it's because, like, you're much less control in the air of what's happening.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you do have, I know it's in the heat of the moment and you're not really thinking, but you do have a choice where to grab someone, where to lose your feet. You know what I mean? I feel like you got a little bit more control with the hip drop to make the call, to a degree.
Yep.
To a degree. But yeah, so compensation, I understand where they're coming from. Maybe there's a quota, like if you have more than 2 players by foul play, you get some kind of compensation. But I don't know how it would work into the next year of the salary cap, though. Fuck me. Okay, just quickly. And lastly, guys, what happens when Brown and Luai are back? So, obviously, Dylan Brown coming back, Tigers. What are we doing? As a half, what are you doing, mate? Brown and Brown, obviously, for the Knights, Luai for the Tigers.
You got to bring him back.
Yeah.
I'd love for a coach, and it's easy for me to say because I don't even know how you manage this. I'd love for one to back. Like, I'd love for Dewey and Jock Madden to get backed. But then again, Jarome Luai's Jarome Luai.
Yeah.
You have to bring him back. Like, I think there's that Australian in all of us that go, just back the little guy
Love
for
the
once. Do you know
battler,
what I mean? So, but you have to bring him back. I reckon the Knights need to learn a bit from their last couple of weeks in the sense that they've always been a team. I reckon you need most of your squad on an even keel in terms of mindset. And whether you like it or not, Kalen Pong has always been a little bit of an outsider, just in the sense they brought him in on huge money. And I know he's brought into that town, but he's not. They haven't raised him. I reckon Fletcher Hunt, and Fletcher Sharp, they could raise to a level of Kalen's superstardom
In the town.
but then they will have been homegrown, so it's completely different. I reckon the lesson is that you can almost create within what you're out there looking to purchase. I think the Knights situation is a little bit different because it can have long-term ramifications. You're now going to have to fit. Dylan's locked in for 10 years, so set and forget him. But now you got to fit Hunt, Sharp, and Ponga into.
What happens when the Ponga goes to re-sign? Like,
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Like, especially with teams like Newcastle and the Tigers, who in the past have struggled with depth. Like to have these guys where we're having these conversations of how do these bigger players fit into the team with these guys doing so well? Look, I think for Kalen especially, there's been rumblings and rumours for so long and whispers that he's not going to be at Newcastle for his entire career. Whether that means he goes and plays rugby union, whether he goes to another rugby league club, the guy's always going to have options. There is no doubt in my mind that Ponga slides straight back into that number 1 jersey.
Yeah.
Dylan Brown goes straight back into was he playing 6 or 7 before he left? He
knows
was
these
in the
days,
halves, right?
Brown was 7.
Brown 7, right? That's definitely going to happen. I think what happens around those players is going to be more interesting, especially from a Newcastle perspective. Like, do you somehow find a way to have Sand? I think Sandon Smith's been so good.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I think he's been brilliant.
So do you move Sandon Smith into the halves with Dylan Brown, which will let Dylan Brown run a bit more? Sandon Smith keeps playing his game, and then find
Fletcher
somewhere
Sharp,
else for
Fletcher
Fletcher
Hunt.
Sharp to play, right? But
Their wingers
then
are too
yeah,
good at
what
the
do
minute.
Yeah, the
you
wingers
then
are
do you
killing
drop
it.
do you drop Dom Young or Greg
can't.
Marjus? Or I think Dan Gagai's been pretty good in the
Bradman
centres.
Best's been a little bit underwhelming, but he's still the future of your club.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, he's out for 4 weeks, so there's a world where one of them will.
Centre
like-
though. Like, fuck.
There's so much. It's it's such a good headache for Justin Holbrook to be in. And like, if you're Adam O'Brien, you would wish you had this much talent.
Or an awful headache.
Yeah.
Whichever way you look at
it's
it.
a
Do you know
tough
what I
one,
mean?
bro.
Yeah. Like,
Because you're going to be damned if you do, damned
Yeah.
if you don't.
The only way you're not damned is if you win.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I just think, there's a lot of fans, and like you guys said before, probably the Aussie in all of us goes, oh, yeah, stick up for the little guy. Like, he's come in, earned his spot. Now our $1 million players should earn their spots back in the teams. Like, that's just not how the world works. Like, you just have to ask yourself, are they a better team with the talent that's coming back or with the guys that have done the job now? And I think in the Newcastle with Kalen Ponga and Dylan Brown, where they are now, those two guys take them up here. I think Tigers with Jarome Luai, the Tigers are here and Jarome Luai takes them there. You know,
Dewey or Jock Madden? Do you reckon Dewey's now locked in?
Dewey's locked in.
It has to be Dewey.
I like what Dewey's doing.
And
Yeah.
they've put so much support and backing behind Dewey that if they move him now,
Mate, what he's managed to do is fucking unbelievable. Just completely turn his career around.
you know, right? And look at they played well in round 1, and they started to click towards the back end of the round 2 game against the Rabbitohs. Like they had all the momentum in the back end of that game before they both went down with injury. Like, I mean, it sucks for Jock, and it sucks for Jock as well that I don't think Jock also moves back into that 14 role for the Tigers, because I think Latu is an outright utility player now.
Yep.
But like I said, it's a great thing. It's if your backup is Jock Madden and he can come in and win you games of football. If you're Benji Marshall, you're cheering. If your backup is Sandon Smith and Newcastle and he can come in and win you games of football, if you're Justin Holbrook, you're cheering.
It works at Penrith though, right? Because Nathan and Blaze, you're not going to question their spots.
Yeah.
But if the Knights have a little dip, then you're in this tough spot. Do you go, well, do we go back to what worked, or do we keep persevering with our out and out superstars? So it's it's a tough one. I like what Dewey's doing.
Yeah.
To me, he looks like someone that this might have been the first preseason that he was involved in all of it, but also he was on the field as a number 7 for all of it. He looks a little leaner and stronger.
He loves the hero, like the hero cape. You know that
the big moments,
the big man in the game, and it's his team. He loves that.
He's figured out what works too, but
Yeah.
as long as he holds onto the ball and runs the footy and kicks quite well, then the Tigers are going to really benefit from that. So I love it. Yeah, I love what he's doing.
It's a great story. Like, injury should have ended him ages ago, and he's just hung in there, and it's been so good.
Cade Reed's been the chat at the Dragons. This year's the year of the halves that have had to go the long way around. Like I know better than anyone. I debuted at 20 and didn't make a name for myself till 25. Like it's so difficult.
Yeah.
There's so many moving parts, and I'm loving seeing the resurgence of guys that have almost been on the scrap heap, but starting to
Jock
show
Madden
everyone
was
what
an
they can do.
Australian schoolboy. Like he was that guy.
Yeah.
And then never clicked at the Tigers. Went to Brisbane.
He's okay at the Broncos. He did
Yeah,
come and
but you're never going to play him over Adam Reynolds.
No.
You know, like so. And then to see him come in and do this stuff, I think it's great. And you talk to Jock and you see the emotion and everything that he kind of has about it. But he knows what he was signed there for. And I think it's great for the Tigers that they're in a position now where they have players like that. Like what you said about Penrith, you know, they have players that know. Jack Cole knows that if Nathan Cleary goes down, it's his job to go and cover for Nathan Cleary. If Nathan Cleary's fit, it's his job to be on the bench and wait, you know. That's what the Tigers have built. And hopefully Newcastle are building towards something similar as well.
Sweet. Alrighty, there we have it, guys. Don't forget, May 4th, bloke jerseys are dropping. Limited edition, limited supply. We don't do the same jerseys twice, guys. So if you want this incredibly good jersey, May 4th, be there. And they're made ready to go. They will arrive at your house before Magic Round. Thank you, mate, for joining us. We appreciate it. Give you a follow on the socials. Tyson the Terminator 69 on the follow on the Instagram over here. And as usual, we'll go fuck ourselves. Thank you.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.